Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today's episode is a solo. It means it's just yours truly. And, it's funny. I haven't done a lot of solos lately. I think I just got on a roll interviewing some incredible people. And then I realized, I think it's time for me to share, just to share. And recently in our studio, we had some conversations. We've brought on some new, some new people onto our team. And we, I guess I've been sort of remembering what it used to be like and sort of trying to educate, our new office admin, our new studio manager, all about, the mistakes that I made and what the reasons we do certain things. And because she's new to the industry, I have had to explain terminology, right? Like what's a CFA and purchase orders for specific products and custom workrooms and things like that. And so I've noticed myself going down memory lane. And then Vera said to me, ooh, this would be a really good topic for a podcast, like listening to all your mistakes, Rebecca. So here we go. But seriously, I don't know. It might be interesting for you guys to learn from my mistakes. At least a few of them. There's too many to list in one podcast. And in fact, my brain has this incredible way of blocking out the bad times and the mistakes. I don't know. It's maybe just a survival thing. So what I'm going to try to do from now on, if let's see how this episode goes. If you guys find this episode helpful and reassuring to see that other people are screwing up, and hopefully it helps you avoid some of the same mistakes, let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram at Ms. Rebecca Hay. Then I will know to record more of these in the future, and I'll make sure that as my memory comes back to me, I'll jot it down so that some of the big kahunas I'm sure I'm going to be missing, the bigger the mistake, the more likely for my memory to blot it out. Anyhow, so without further ado, here we go. I'm going to share with you 7 big mistakes that I have made in my design career.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you looking to expand your network, gain momentum in your business, and be around your tribe of designers or decorators or architects? If you answered yes, then go check out the Collective Workspace. They offer a range of private office suites, flex workspaces, boardroom rentals, and many more perks, along with a trade-only design resource library. Oh, and did I mention a boutique gym? Their flagship space is located in the heart of Toronto. I am here right now in the Design District, with a second location opening up this fall in Mississauga. Go check them out at thecollectiveto.com or go on Instagram at The Collective Workspace, your tour, or take advantage of their free 3-day pass. All right, let's just dive right in, shall we? So I'm going to share with you 7 mistakes that I have made in my design career, and of course, what I have learned from it and what I've done to ensure that that mistake does not happen again. The last mistake, number 7, is definitely by far 1000% the biggest mistake, and I will save that juicy one for the end. So here we go. The first mistake I have made is, it's kind of a silly, simple thing that I almost feel silly saying it out loud because, anyways, there's a reason. Anyways, the mistake is ordering a fabric without first placing a cutting for approval, a CFA, to verify the dye lot. For those of you who are relatively new to the design world, a CFA is what you request when you've selected a fabric for, let's say, a piece of furniture or a drapery. And you place the CFA, what it means is you get to reserve or hold the quantity of fabric you need so you can ensure that you have that. And then they send you a cutting, right? It's called a cutting for approval from that bolt of fabric that you have reserved so that you make sure that the dye lot or the color doesn't vary from the sample you've selected, right? Once you receive it, you can approve it, meaning you can give them your credit card, you place the order, or if you need to change the quantity, or if it doesn't match, you can say, wait, is there another bolt that is a different dye lot, or maybe you need to reselect the fabric. So the process is already set in place by the fabric companies. There's probably a reason they did that. Probably years ago, they got lots of angry designers saying, this isn't what the sample was, this is misleading, right? So they decided to put this process or system in place. Well, little baby designer Rebecca, when I was working for another designer, so this is early on in my career, we moved at warp speed. We just needed things done. It was never fast enough. And I felt the pressure to make sure everything got done quickly, right? And who knows, maybe I forgot to do something and I was trying to play catch up. I don't really remember. What I do remember is we were ordering a gray fabric. It was an upholstery grade fabric for a custom sofa. It was going in a downtown Yorkville, Toronto condo on a high floor. So, we had to make sure that the sofa was going to fit in the elevator and down the hall and all that fun stuff, the fun part of working in condos. And I was tasked with ordering all of the fabrics. Well, I don't know if it was my decision or somebody else's decision. I really don't remember. But I decided, for the sake of time, to skip placing the CFA. I decided, let's just order the fabric. I figured it's gray. I mean, how different could it be? And let's be honest, guys, if you've been doing this for a hot minute, you know that half the time, more than half the time, when you receive your cutting for approval, it's perfect, right? You're like, yep, that looks great. Or maybe it's slightly different, but it doesn't change the design scheme, and so it's fine. Well, I think you guys can see where this one's going. I decided I didn't need a CFA. Actually, this mistake, it's like twofold, threefold. It's not just one mistake. It was like the snowball of mistakes. So I ordered the fabric direct, don't get a cutting, right? I mean, maybe the cutting was coming. Who knows? Because they usually send one anyways, right? Anyways, I don't remember. Order the fabric. It gets shipped to our upholsterer. I had sent back in the day, we would send purchase orders via mail or in person. And the reason we did that is so that we could cut out a little square of the fabric and we would staple it. And I still do this sometimes for some of our upholsterers, to be quite honest, so that they could see which fabric was going on which item. And so I had done this for our upholsterer. And what I had done, though, because I didn't have the CFA, I cut a little square from the sample, which is called a memo. It was a memo sample. And so, which was the one we showed the client, which was the one that worked in the scheme, the gray upholstery fabric. I cut a little square corner about 1 inch by 1 inch, stapled it just like I did always, but this time it wasn't from the CFA that I cut the square. It was from the memo. Sent it to our upholsterer. Sure, fabric ships, great. I get a phone call. This should have been the first red flag. Inexperienced Rebecca. My upholsterer calls me and says, I've received the fabric for your sofa, but there's one discrepancy. I'm like, oh, what would that be? He's like, it doesn't really seem to match the purchase order sample that you gave me. I'm like, really? And of course, I'm super uber stressed. Time is of the essence. I'm panicked about everything. My life was chaos back then. Design was chaos. I had 50 things to do. And the last thing I wanted to do was drive all the way up to Woodbridge to go to my upholsterer's place and like verify and see what it looked like. And I was like, well, I mean, is it gray? I remember this conversation so vividly. And he's such an incredible man. I still work with him. And he was like, well, yeah, it's gray, but I don't think it's the same dye lot. Like it's like a bit of a different shade of gray. It's a little bit more blue, purple. And I was like, honestly, it's fine. Okay. It's totally fine. If it's gray, is it gray? Okay. And I was probably short with him because I was like running so thin. I may have been also planning my wedding at this time. I don't remember. And I'm like, if it's gray, it'll be fine. Just make the sofa. He's like, okay. So he makes the sofa. Then next mistake. So first mistake I made was not trusting our wonderful supplier who pointed it out to me and going to see. The second mistake the first mistake was not doing the CFA. Then it was not going to look at it when something was flagged. Then it's ready for delivery and I don't go to inspect it before it's delivered to the condo. It arrives at the condo. At first, we don't even think we can fit it in the elevator. There's all that stress. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I thought we measured. Anyhow, we get it in. And it is the wrong shade of freaking gray. It was almost violet. I was mortified. This was a very high-end client. My boss was there. And I thought, fuck. Sorry for swearing. The sofa, sure, it was gray, but it was not like the shade and the tone of gray. It was a completely different dye lot. And we put it in the room and it didn't match anything. The pillows didn't match. The rug didn't match. And if you're like, as a designer, there's like some such subtle nuances to color that if one thing is slightly off, everything is off, right? Oh my God. So stressful. So what did we do? The only thing we could do. We changed everything else in the room. Oh my God. And it was, our upholsterer said to me, he was like, I called you and I told you it wasn't the same color. And I'm like, yeah, that's unfortunate, but we did not have the time to have the sofa remade. Think about the cost associated with ordering all that fabric and remaking the sofa. Instead, we changed everything else. We had Weavers Art, this rug company in Toronto, come and like roll out a bunch of different rugs, try and tone down the purple. We had to sort of move the pillows around. Oh my goodness. I would never make that mistake again. So if you've done this before, send me a DM. I would love to hear because it felt catastrophic at the time. And that's probably why the conversations are so clear, because I could go back in my mind the day the sofa was being delivered to that conversation I had had with the upholsterer and I was thinking to myself, damn it, Rebecca, you were warned and you ignored the warning. Never again. So how have I fixed this so that this hasn't happened again? And it has not happened again, thankfully. It's ensuring that everyone on my team understands that you have to place a CFA. It has to arrive. I don't care about your time. I don't care how fast the client wants their drapes or their sofa, or if the upholsterer is waiting and they're going to be delayed. I will not order a fabric until the CFA has arrived and we have compared it. And to somebody who's new, seems like an excessive precaution, but if you had my experience, you would always take that precaution. So there you go. That's the first mistake. Always place your CFA, but also verify it against the original. Okay. Also, the other learning from that is trust your suppliers. Trust your suppliers. Okay. Mistake number 2. Not being on site for key installations. You've probably been through this before. You're running around, your car is your office, like zippity-doo, got a million things to do, and you get a phone call from a trade and they're a contractor and they say like, can you really swing by site? Because like this is happening. I want to make sure we're doing it right. And you're like, oh, fine, right? So you go and whatever. It might be fine, might not be fine, you go. But then there's those days where you start your day and you think to yourself, because this used to happen to me a lot, I really should go to site. I should just, I feel like I should go check in. Or maybe the contractor says something like, oh, it would be helpful if you came, but you don't have to. And then in your mind, or in my mind, I would be thinking, about the million things I still had to do. I had to go pick up this fabric at Krabbit. I had to find a substitute for the sofa thing. I had to go take the lights in to be rewired. I had to, I still haven't done those drawings in AutoCAD, right? Like when you're when you're a solo entrepreneur and you are running your business and you're wearing all the hats. And then of course, it's like, I still haven't invoiced that client. It's been like 6 weeks. Like everything is on your mind. And you're thinking, fuck, do I really need to go to site? It's like 20 minutes out of the way. I'll just be standing there. But you're in your instinct. You're like, I feel like I should go. And then you don't go. In my experience, every time you have that feeling and you ignore it, you regret it. Sometimes small scale, sometimes large scale. Go to site. In this particular instance, I did not go to site when the tiler was laying the tile. I thought, he's a professional. It's a powder room. How could you screw up a powder room? We were doing a slate herringbone inlay that was like 3x6. I think it was it was probably more than that. It was like, anyways, doesn't matter. You guys don't care. It was a herringbone slate, like a gray slate. And then there was a gray slate border around the room. So my contractor calls and is like, oh, the tiler's kind of troubleshooting. Like, Rebecca, there's something going on. Like the room's not straight. And so like the border, we're like, don't know if it's going to work. And I was frustrated and I was irritable because I was running around like a crazy person. And I'm like, well, is the border going to work? Like, just do the border. Whatever you guys think. I trust you. You're professionals. Just do it. Like, we really want a border. That's what we told the client. Like, do the border. I go a few days later. And the tile's been grouted. And if you know anything about construction, once the tile has been grouted, you are not removing that without just demoing. And I was like, oh, yay, the tile's in. Ooh, I'm going to just show up and things will be perfect. Not true. I walk in and the border is effed up. Like the room is so beyond being square that the border is not consistent. So it's not the 6 inches it's supposed to be. It goes 6 inches and then it fades down to 2 inches at one point. Like, what the what? So, of course, I'm so angry at my contractor. And I'm like, you should have just gotten rid of the border. But the reality is I can point fingers all day long. I needed to be there. But I thought it's just a powder room. It doesn't matter. So now, how have I fixed this? Now in our process, we have milestones. We show up on site. We ideally once a week. Again, that kind of depends on if there's nothing happening. We're not going to site. And sometimes there's a lot, so we're there multiple times. But in general, we like to go once a week, and we like to meet our contractors on the same day and kind of go through and see everything. But in our process that we follow, and we've got it all laid out in Asana, there are milestones that must be met. And there are things like electrical rough-in. Once the electrician has been there and done the rough-in of all the wires and locations, someone from our team goes with the drawing package and you are measuring the heights and the distances from the walls and the ceilings, and you're measuring the numbers of plugs. You're looking to make sure the location of the chandelier is in the right place, because if you miss that, shoot, you're adding time and money to the project for the drywaller to go back, the electrician to go back and change things. So those are non-negotiables. We always like to meet our tiler, what the day he's going to start, so we can kind of lay it out and get a visual with him so that you can have human-to-human conversation, face-to-face conversation. Okay. I will say, though, we have made further mistakes in that realm, and that sometimes if we send someone from our team to site that doesn't have extreme attention to detail, they don't catch and go through that. So that's been a learning curve for me as a business owner. To show up on site when someone said they've already inspected, and to look up at the electrical and notice that the dining chandelier is way off because now we're doing a banquette and it clearly hadn't been moved, but the person I sent to verify it didn't notice it, is very frustrating. So that's a whole other learning, and that's maybe for a podcast down the road, is like the whole growing a team and trusting other people to do the job that you're usually doing, to do it at the same level that you would expect. It's really hard. Okay, mistake number 3. Not collecting money up front. Has anyone done this? Yeah, I'll start. And you just start designing and you get to work and you're doing a floor plan and you start selecting just a few fabrics, just kind of want to get rolling, but they haven't given you a retainer. They haven't given you any money. and you're working and you go to show them your work and then you invoice them. That used to be how I ran every project. However, not anymore. I had a situation where someone had hired me to design their cottage. And I thought, oh, yes, because you guys know me. I love cottages and cabins and country retreats and farmhouses. Like, bring me all the country all day long. I love it. And so thrilled. And we designed it, sent the first invoice. That was paid fine. Then we did all the rest of the design. Like I think the first time I let it go a little long, then I invoiced. And then the next time, the team and I think there was one other person or two other people at the time helping me, went above and beyond. We did this whole presentation. They came to our office, which actually was at my house at the time. We did the presentation. We walked them through all the floor plans, all the suggested finishes and furnishings, and like you name it. And then, of course, a couple weeks later, we realized, oh, shoot, we have to invoice. So we invoice for like 6 weeks of time. Now, again, this isn't just me. This is now me paying other people. We never hear back. Ghosted us. Multiple emails, follow-ups. Nothing. 6 months goes by. Nothing. Can't get a hold of the guy. Finally, a year later, there's a message that comes through to one of our emails saying, oh, well, I'm in the industry, so I just assumed, Rebecca was going to do me a solid. That was the understanding I had with Rebecca. That was not the understanding, but he was an asshole. That exists. I never, ever again would start a project without getting some form of retainer that I would hold and use towards the end. The idea behind a retainer is you retain it. You hold on to it until the end. You don't collect a retainer and then immediately start applying that to invoices. Because what happens when you run out? Then you're stuck waiting and the project's on hold while you wait for the client to pay and it's super awkward. No, we now collect money up front. All right. Let this be a warning. Mistake number 4. Doing a consultation for free. Okay. So when I started out, I always did free consultations. It was a meet and greet and I could not even fathom charging. The designer I had worked for didn't charge for his. But here's the difference. He had been in the business for like 30 plus years. He had clients that were connected through people that he knew. He had clients that had really high expectations, big salaries, beautiful homes. When he met them, it was already pretty serious and he knew it was going to be a sure thing. So when I went out on my own, I'm like, I'm just going to do what he did. I'm not going to charge. And like most of the time it didn't turn into a project and sometimes it did. And then I said, I'm going to start charging. So I started to charge for my consultation. At first it was, I think, $250 for 2 hours. And then I upped it, to like $400. And it was going really well. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like everyone's always showing up. They pay me. Most of the time it turns into a job, but not always. And that's fine because I got paid for my time. And I can share my thoughts on that in a separate episode. And then I started making exceptions. And someone would say, and this is the one time that was the most obvious to me that I needed to stop doing this, is most of the time I will tell you when I did the consultation for free, when I was used to charging for it, it was always like a family friend or somebody I wanted to help. And it never turned into a job because they didn't value my time from the very beginning. But this one time, it was a real estate agent who had brought me work. And so in some ways, I felt a little indebted to her. And when she said she wanted my help with her condo, I said, oh, absolutely. You know what? I will do a consultation for free. I won't charge you. Let's set up a time. So my office arranged the time the same we do with all our consultations, but we didn't request payment because I wasn't charging her for it. I thought this will be a really great job, right? I will waive the consultation fee. Doesn't that sound so professional? I will waive it for you. Yeah, wow. I get to her condo building in a very swanky part of town. It's like a fall afternoon. I had to have someone else pick up my kids from school. And I'm outside, I'm buzzing. No response. I check with my team. I'm like, is she going to be here? This is the right time, right? And they're like, yeah. No, this is the time. Sent her an email. No response. Called on the phone. She answers. Oh, was that today? Oh, I'm so sorry. I got caught up and whatever. Can we find another time? And like a dummy, I was like, absolutely no problem whatsoever. Just wasted an hour of my day and I had to have someone else go and pick up my kids. I didn't say that to her. Of course not. I'm so polite. And so I went back. The second scheduled consultation, she was there. Did the consultation normally, blah, blah, blah. Sent her a proposal. Poof. She disappeared. Not for my life, but she never responded to the proposal. Never intended to pay our design fee probably anyways. Never again. Do not work for free. Do not make exceptions for friends or family unless they are the closest people to you and you have that type of relationship. In my experience, it never works out. Mistake number 5. Not inspecting custom work before it was delivered. So I did mention this sort of was an extension of the first mistake, which had like multiple mistakes connected to it, which is inspecting custom pieces before they arrive at the client's home. We do a lot of custom furniture. We do custom sofas, custom chairs, custom tables, and now in the pandemic, we're doing so much more custom because it's actually faster than ordering something through a retail outlet or even a wholesaler. So we do custom side tables, custom coffee tables, custom area rugs, like you name it, custom lighting, like as much as we can do custom, we do. And if you don't check it out though, before it's delivered, what if there's something wrong with it and you haven't seen it and you had an opportunity to circumvent that so that your client doesn't think you're an idiot? So here's what happened. This is a story from my famous lemon job. I'm not going to tell the whole story here. Maybe I could reserve a whole podcast for that. But I had a lemon job where literally almost everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it was a turning point actually for me in my business. But here's one example. A contractor that I had been working closely with was also a carpenter. And so he had made dining tables before for other projects, for other people. And I thought this will be great. We can do a nice dining table. It'll be very cost effective because it wasn't going to be very expensive. And it'll be custom. It's going to be great. And the client had found, they had been to one of those wood table furniture companies in the city. And they showed me pictures and they're like, well, what do you think? But like, whatever you think. And I was like, well, no, let's have one made for you. And it's going to be less money. The table arrives. Oh my God, guys. I was at the house when it arrived, at least. Oh man, actually, this is reminding me of the other mistake. Oh, I feel sick to my stomach. So the table arrives. It's damaged. Like the sides are like unfinished. I don't even think I have a picture of it. Like I was so I just want to block it out of my mind. The base was like uneven. The table was too small. All the things that could go wrong. It looked like shit. It was like rustic. It had been like, it wasn't smooth. It looked like it should be in a barn. And I was shocked, had a hard time communicating to the person who'd made it because I had a good working relationship with him. But I made the mistake of leaving it in the client's house. This was probably the bigger mistake. So yes, I should have seen it first and I could have stopped it from arriving and had something fixed. But once it arrived, I left it there thinking, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe the client will like it. Maybe because I didn't want to deal with it. And the client was so upset, not just that the table was shitty, but that I had suggested this supplier would do something beautiful. It was the beginning of the end for me. They began to question every suggestion I made, every trade I brought forward, and it was a nightmare. In the end, we had to have it picked up, taken back. He didn't even make another table for us. They went back to the original company that they had wanted to purchase the table from, and they said, don't worry about it. We're going to get our own table. It was a mess. So always inspect the furniture before it's delivered. And if you know something's not right, don't leave it there for the client to stare at it and be reminded about how bad it is. And then they start to fume and they get more angry, and then they get angry at you. Okay, woo, I'm a really good designer, huh? All these mistakes. Okay, we've got 2 more. One more and then the big kahuna. Mistake number 6. Getting overly excited after receiving money from a client and ordering without double checking. So what do I mean by that? I mean, getting overly excited, the client sends you money, let's roll, without really double checking, just starting to place orders. And by double checking, I mean purchase orders. Purchase orders are something that I never really wanted to do. It felt so time consuming. Like, oh God, like honestly, like why don't I just pick up the phone and tell Kravit that I want 6 yards of this one and I want 8 yards of this one? And why can't I just call my upholsterer and say, yep, that sofa that I sent you the picture of, it's a go. Can I give you my credit card? There is a reason that purchase orders exist. It's for verification of detail. So we would get the money. I'd be like, okay, go ahead, start ordering. We would start ordering, but we wouldn't be double checking all the details. So we wouldn't be double checking, is that code for the light fixture the right one? Can we just double check that everything was entered properly? Because it says UMH2, I don't know, PN. I mean, usually that's polished nickel, but like we wanted brass, right? So we went ahead, ordered a bunch of things, and then things started to arrive. The lights were the wrong size. The chair was the wrong finish. And there was a third one. What was the third one? Can't remember. Oh, the wrong light. Like it was a lot of lighting related things. I think it's because it's very technical and there was a lot of codes and pictures weren't always representative. Ordering too quickly, like being too fast and just trying to dive right in without verifying those details costs you time and money. Fortunately, most of the items could be exchanged, but then of course we had to wait for the new ones to be delivered. We were lucky, but what if something had been backordered or discontinued? Fortunately, too, in this situation, we knew not enough not to take it to site. And one of the designers who was on site recognized that it was wrong and didn't even open the box and had it sent back. But that should never have happened. That's a mistake that collectively as a team, we should have been reviewing the details. We should have created the purchase order. And now, especially now that we've brought on a new sort of business admin and a purchaser, we're really spending a lot of time trying to make sure the back end is tight. Tight back end. Ha 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 ha. I'm so funny. I need another coffee, I think. So now that we've done that, I will not let anyone place an order unless a purchase order is created, a PDF or a printout, usually PDF, and the designer, the person who made the selection, reviews it for accuracy. And now we have a system of checks and balances where it is sent via an approval in Asana. The designer has to check it off. There's a trace of where and what things are going on so that you can't point fingers. There's nothing worse than saying, oh, well, I had a conversation with so-and-so and I told them it was supposed to be brass. I don't know why they didn't check the thing. And the other person's like, well, I sent it to so-and-so and they checked it and they didn't tell me that the code was wrong. You know what I mean? Again, this is part of being a business owner and delegating tasks, but that is the one thing we've learned. It's so easy to get trigger happy when you get money. Like, let's go, boom, let's give a deposit, let's do this thing. You have to follow your systems, which now leads to my last and final mistake. Number 7. How do I word this one? It's not really one mistake. It's kind of like the biggest thing that's changed my business. The mistake was not having a process. What that means is I was flying by the seat of my pants. I would go zoom out and I would pick fabrics and I'd bring them back to the office and I put them out for the team. I'm like, what do you think? And it was fun until it wasn't fun. And we'd put together fabrics. Yeah, that'd be so great. Well, I don't know. Are we going to do a sectional or are we going to do a 3-seat sofa and a love seat? Like, what are we doing? I don't know. Let's pick the fabrics. Okay, let's play around with the furniture layout. oh yeah, no, I don't think, well, yeah, that's not going to work anymore because I think it needs to be a sectional. And they're like really concerned about whatever. Let's take it to the clients. We take it to their house. We put everything out on the floor. Literally, I'd be on my knees with a couple bags with another designer and everything would be on the floor. Oh my God. Oh my God. Professional. Like I charge $125 an hour to be on your floor back then. Fuck. So sorry, I'm swearing so much of this episode. My apologies. Potty mouth. So then I would get some feedback and I would kind of like do the scheme in front of the client. And I was like, well, wait, we could do this. And if we did this for the sofa, then I think we should do the pillows and this and the chairs and that. But if you like this chair fabric, it could also be the sofa. And it was like a running stream of consciousness where I was designing literally in front of the client and almost as if the client was my team member. And regardless of how that went, usually we kind of came to a conclusion. Of course, I couldn't tell them pricing. That's right. Oh my God. I had a sticky note on the back of the fabric that said the retail price of the fabric or just in pencil on the back of the fabric. So it'd be the memo sample. Let's say it was like JF Fabrics, and on the back it would be like, I'd always do an R so that, or RT so that internally we knew it was retail. Oh my God, it was so not professional. Be like RT and I'd be like $187. So that at least then the clients could see the actual cost of each fabric, but then they were making decisions sort of more based on cost and not, anyways, don't do it that way. If you're doing it, find a new way. That was my lack of process, because then what would happen is the client would say to me, okay, like they get excited. Like, hey, so what happens next? And honestly, I don't know. I just made it up on the spot because every project I followed a different route. It wasn't even a process. You can't even call it a process. I followed a process. I followed a different pathway. I would say, depending, I'd be like, okay, well, and I'm like talking out loud to them as I'm thinking in my head. Well, we're going to go back to the office and we're going to enter all this in and we're going to put together a proposal. We'll send that proposal to you by the end of the week. And then we'll get to work, selecting like the carpet and the furniture and the coffee table. First of all, it's such a bad way to do it, because what if the coffee table selection then affects one of the selections you've already made? And then you're just sending proposals as you go. I had no budget. Like we did not have I was like, yeah, I'm sure we can do it for 100,000. And we just kept going. I'm like, okay, this was a proposal for 20. Oh shoot, now we're at 130. How'd that happen? We haven't selected everything. Oh my God. I had no process. The biggest game changer in my business, and I've had to go through a few iterations of process to get to the sweet spot where I am today. Having a streamlined, organized 7-step process that I follow with every single freaking project has been hands down a game changer. You can ask my husband, you can ask my team, you can ask my designer friends, you can ask most people in my life who are aware of what I do for a living, and they will tell you, holy heck, what a change. I would probably say my husband's the one who's seen the change the most. I was stressed. It was chaotic. People who came to work for me had no idea what was to do next. They would just be there waiting for me to tell them what to do next. It was hard for them to do a good job because they couldn't foresee the next step. They didn't know. They couldn't go ahead. They couldn't shock me and be like, oh, I already did this thing and that thing. Because they didn't know what the this thing and that thing were that were coming up. Because even if we did it one way on one project, the next project might be entirely different. It was impossible for them to manage my expectations and vice versa. And our clients, our literal clients, did not know which way was up. And by the end, we were all exhausted. We wanted it over. And to be honest with you, most of the projects, we never finished to the degree that I could or wanted to photograph them. If this is you and you've been there, there are better ways. But I can tell you, finding a process that works for you will change your life. And I feel like that's a big statement, but it's exactly how I feel. All these little mistakes leading up to this mistake number 7 would never have happened had I had a process. Now, the not trusting my gut and my intuition, well, that's just a me thing and I'm working on it. But that has been the biggest game changer. Now we follow. It's like, okay, we're in step 1. Now what happens? We send our clients a what to expect document at every step of the way so they always know what's coming ahead. Our team has checklists for each step so you can't miss anything. And so if we veer and we try to do something outside our process, it doesn't go well, like doing a free consultation. Okay, everybody. There you have it. Those are my 7 mistakes, 7 of the many mistakes I have made in my career thus far as a interior designer. But as you can imagine, that's probably not the last mistake I'll make, and there are many more. So I don't know if you guys found this episode helpful. I know I always enjoyed hearing when other people screwed up because it always made me feel better. And if you take note of some of these things that haven't happened to you yet, or maybe they never will, but take note so that you can avoid them. Let me know. Also, guys, if you are really liking this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you could give us a 5-star review, write a little love note to let other people know. Please feel free to share this podcast on your social feed, on Instagram, on Facebook. We would love for more designers to join our lovely community. And if you're not already a member, you are welcome into our Designer Meetup Facebook group. There is a link in the show notes. And that's all I got for you today. Go forth and don't make the same mistakes I have. See you soon.